Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the February 15th, 2012 meeting of the Daytona Beach Community Redevelopment Agency. We're delighted to have you with us this evening. Ms. Thomas will review the procedures for tonight's meeting.
Good evening. Agendas are available in the front of the room on the table to my right. All of the exhibits pertaining to items on the agenda are posted here on the bulletin board. You may view them at any time during tonight's meeting. You are required to fill out a blue form. My assistant, Ms. LaMagna, is holding that form up. You must complete the sections that ask for your name, address, topic of concern, agenda item number, signature, and date. The form must be completed and placed in the designated box prior to the item coming before the Community Redevelopment Agency. There is one additional opportunities for citizens to speak before the agency. That is item number 8. All citizens completing a blue form will be allowed to speak for 2 minutes. When you approach the lectern, please speak clearly into the mic and give your full name and address. The 2-minute clock will begin. You will be told when your time has expired. All conversation must take place either at the lectern or on the dais so that everyone can hear the business that's being discussed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gilliland. Here. Commissioner Henry. Here. Commissioner Reynolds. Here. Commissioner Shelley. Here. Commissioner Woods. Here. Commissioner White. Here. Mayor Glenn Ritchie.
Here we'll now have the invocation led by Commissioner Henry, followed by the pledge led by Commissioner Gilliland. Please rise for the invocation and the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we come to you once again asking you for leaders, guidance, and understanding. We pray for the CRA and the regular city commission meeting. In your precious son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now move on to item 4A, approval of the December 6th and the January 18th special Community Redevelopment Agency minutes.
Second.
Commissioner Gilliland is the motion. Commissioner Henry is the second. Is there any questions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. That motion carries 7-0. I will move on to item number 5, the agenda approval. If there's any changes, the manager will read them at this time.
No changes, Mayor.
Second.
Commissioner Gilliland's the motion. Commissioner Shelley is the second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Motion carries 7-0.
We will now move on to our presentations. Presentation of the Midtown Master Plan by Professor Greg Huffman. He will present the master plan for the Midtown area, and he is a member of Florida A&M University School of Architecture.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I've asked if it's okay, we'd have our Midtown Chair make an introduction of Mr. Huffman and the project.
Great.
Thanks.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commission, and staff. Ms. Ivy, 314 South Franklin Street, Chairman of the Midtown Redevelopment Board. First of all, before I bring Professor Huffman up, I would like to give out some kudos. First of all, I'd like to thank our Commissioner, Cassandra Reynolds, who really came. When I initially talked to her, she started the process of making this happen. So we have to give you thanks, and we thank you for your leadership on bringing us this forth. Next, I'd like to thank the Mayor and the Commission as a whole for approving this whole process of getting something started for the first time in the history of the Midtown. So I want to thank each and every one of you personally and individually. Next of all, it has been a hard fight. We know we still have a long way to go, but at least we hopefully at the point where we can have a foundation. But in order for us to build a foundation, we had to have a board. And I know we had some ups and downs throughout the meetings and throughout the times, but as we work through this, I see great things happening in Midtown. I'd like to take this time to really thank the chair who really started this and stayed on top of it from the beginning up to this point, and that's Ms. Johnny Ponder. Will you please stand? That's our ex-chair. I'd also like to recognize our the Midtown Board. For those who have, the vice chair is Ms. Patricia Hurd. We have a Ms. Shirley Benjamin. Okay, we also have a Ken McGee. He's also out sick. We have a Denise McMillan, probably be a little late. We have a new member, Miss Sonia. That's Miss Simonette, who just joined us. We also have Mr. Tooley, and we also have a Mr. Wilburn. So new board. But the ones I mentioned first, they were the catalysts that made all this possible, Mr. Mayor. It gives me great pleasure at this present time to introduce a man that I personally traveled. I got a chance to know him. He gave me a better understanding on the process, what it takes, how it works. When we didn't like some of the designs, we personally talked about it and everything. I want to give special thanks to Florida A&M University, which is a great institution that came down. The students did a very remarkable job. From all the workshops that were done, they took all the community ideas, those that came and participated, and they made sure that they incorporated the community ideas. So it wasn't just the board. Although the board took more workshops and kept it going, the community started it. And I would like to thank the community as a whole for coming out and supporting the Midtown Master Plan, because without them, we wouldn't be this far neither. So I think as a community, we all came in. Professor Craig Huffman took it, everything that we gave to him. We went through some ups and downs, some battles, but he came through. We need him, and I hope we can continue to use him as we develop this plan and make it a part of the Midtown area. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you Professor Huffman from Florida A&M University.
Good evening, everybody. I guess I need to tell for the record, my name is Craig Huffman, 1127 Morningside Court, Tallahassee, Florida. And I guess, are we queued up with the presentation? And yeah, it's working. Okay. But as Mr. Ivey said, this has really been an 18-month community process. We had, I think, 7 workshops, number of locations, located, some of them here in City Hall, some of them at Dickerson Community Center, in the heart of the community, some at BCU. And we really had a wide spectrum of input from the citizens. And it's been great getting to know people here in Daytona Beach and in Midtown. I've been down here so many times in the last year and a half. I feel like I commute sometimes back and forth to Tallahassee. It's just another neighborhood where I live. But I think we've arrived at a place now where a lot of the larger framework of the plan has been developed, and there are some specifics as well which we can talk about tonight. And hopefully it will be then a blueprint to go forward for this very unique historic part of your community to then become a larger part of Daytona Beach and the surrounding area. So let's begin. I just want to quickly say, in addition to our graduate students being involved as an educational, pedagogical exercise, we have licensed professionals at the School of Architecture, Florida A&M. I'm an urban designer. I'm a licensed architect. We've done master plans for clients like the St. Joe Company, for Florida State University, for Florida A&M, for large corporate clients. So this is something we've done in addition to just academic exercises. Let's see that. So the process. Now I'm going to go through some of these pretty quickly and then try to leave more time for question and answer and dialogue. But a lot of the process involved getting to know the community, as I said, having the workshops, mapping the community. We did extensive GIS mapping. All of those are not included here. But I did want to highlight, in every master plan analysis, you find assets, you find opportunities, and you find liabilities and challenges. Midtown is an excellent location. It's right halfway between the beach and the interstate, I-95 and the Speedway. It's essentially in geographic heart of the community. It's got a rich African-American history and culture, Bethune-Cookman University, significant number of historic structures that begin to create the kind of the outline of the historic district, at least in part of the community. One of its greatest assets is its interconnected street grid. Now, something that urban designers and planners are really doing more and more in community design is to have that interconnected network. In fact, there's something called, you might check it out, walkscore.com, where communities are graded, cities are graded in terms of their walkability, their safety, their pedestrian safety. We did that for Midtown, it scored an 85, quite high. It's a B, B+. If you go out to some of the more automobile-dominated areas west of Midtown, they're scoring in the 50s or upper 40s. So this interconnected pedestrian scale is an asset, and that's one of the touchstones that we base the plan on. There's a lot of affordable vacant property in Midtown. That's both an asset and liability. There's too much vacant property in Midtown. But over time, with the right zoning, the right planning framework in place, and over time with markets returning and economic development being more attractive through possibly incentives and an easier entitlement process, that vacant and affordable property becomes a development asset and an asset with the community. Lots of challenges. Deficit of business and home ownership. That's got to increase. Decreased tax base in relation to other areas. Income levels are generally lower than the adjacent community. A concentration of public housing. We definitely believe that there needs to be more workforce housing, more student-oriented housing for the campuses, not just BCU, but the other campuses around town. And because it can be more affordable, because of more affordable property, and more market rate housing over time, and start to dilute the concentration of just affordable housing only. The infrastructure is outdated, it's inadequate, especially stormwater. There's inadequate playgrounds, recreation, public spaces in relation to proportion to other parts of the city. I talked about significant areas of vacant property. A lack of basic services and shopping. There's really no good grocery store with healthy food. I saw some students tonight driving up from BCU, walking back from the pharmacy on the corner of Ridgeview and ISB. Not that far of a walk, but still, it's there could be a pharmacy closer by. And there's no identifiable Midtown center. There's really no place where you say that's the center of the community. So with that, we went through the workshops, we did graphic analysis, we did the mapping, we looked at the architectural assets. There are a number of unique and historic structures in the area. Most of you know the history in terms of Mary McLeod Bethune and her amazing contributions to civil rights and to higher education. And but one thing I learned was Howard Thurman, and of course his historic home right there on White Street. Whitehall, yeah, and his contributions to the civil rights movement and to just really the ascent of man in terms of thinking at a higher level in terms of how we have dialogue with each other in society. So we kind of arrived at this mission statement that the best of the culture and the educational resources and the historic resources needs to be preserved, needs to be built upon. But for Midtown to ever really be successful or to become dynamic again as a place, there's got to be new growth, new development, and ultimately private sector investment. That's going to be the real key in the long run. So the mission statement just talks about preserving that unique historic African American community while looking at the triple bottom line as it goes forward of the social, the economic, and the environmental quality of the neighborhood as the master plan's enacted. This is all in your booklets. This presentation, by the way, is not the whole book because of time constraints, but just highlights some of the things that we felt were really essential. This touches on some of the urban design principles and patterns, not only to keep that interconnected street grid, but begin to enact development standards so that the free-floating building and the large sea of parking starts to go away. There's a lot of that area, especially on ISB, used to be car dealers. Those car dealers have moved to larger facilities in other parts of the city. But there's a very automobile-oriented scale, especially along ISB, and this needs to change over time. We need to start looking at policies where the new buildings are brought closer to streets, parking is behind and on the side, and we start to embrace a more urban pattern in the Midtown area. So streets in transit, every street going forward, in terms of street improvements, will be considered streets for people, not just streets for cars. Parks and green space would be added in strategic locations. We looked at community gardens and public markets. Again, we've had actually a lot of interest in some of these workshops, especially of some younger people and college-age people wanting to begin to be stewards of community gardens so they can begin to produce fresh produce for themselves and the community. And then something called universal design, which we always advocate in every community, and that is, especially as the population gets to be more aged, a senior population, that it's not a one-size-fits-all, but that the design improvements over time that the public sector does addresses children and adults and senior citizens equally. That it's not just focused on the 30 to 60-year-old crowd, but also seniors. So the plan. This is some place we'll spend at least a minute. The key to the plan was looking at 5 neighborhood centers. And I'm sorry, I'm going to highlight this one with the red. There we go. It's hard to see. See the red dot? Keach and Mary McLeod Bethune, Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard and Martin Luther King, Orange and Martin Luther King, Keach north-south and Orange east-west, and down at Bellevue and Martin Luther King. And these little red dots indicate transit stops. Some are already there, but connecting the transit lines and connecting the future zoning, so it allows denser, more mixed-use development there, so that future retail is not spread out along strips along Orange Street or spread out along Martin Luther King, but it's concentrated so that that's the center of a 5-minute walk. Each of those circles is called a pedestrian shed, and it's 1,250 feet, quarter mile. So it's a 5-minute walk to each of those centers. So over time, this is 20, 30, 40 years, those become sub-districts in the larger district of Midtown. And then the primary town center or district center would be here at ISB and Martin Luther King. That's kind of shown in the pink, the large rectangles. And that would become really, over time, the cultural, entertainment, and retail commercial hub of the district. In addition to establishing those 5 neighborhoods and the master plan structure I've mentioned, these little red elements are suggesting street extensions over time. Extend Oak Street to the west. Extend Loomis Avenue. There's not enough east-west connection in this part of the district. Oh, it's a little bit south of the actual legal boundary. All these little areas in this kind of more historic neighborhood, it's hard to see. You can see in your booklet, but it's a lot of dead-end streets there. In a grid, you really have to connect everything, because those little dead-end streets in an urban grid become places for crime. There's been statistics that have proven this. That's where you don't have the surveillance that you normally do in an interconnected street grid. So if you have a little lane that goes nowhere, that's going to be a higher crime potential area. So we recommend over time Public Works investing in interconnecting all those streets. bicycles. Midtown's already a really strong bike neighborhood. We just think that should be reinforced on the small streets. It's great because you have an interconnected grid. On the larger streets, bike lanes and safety provisions should be added over time. Green spaces, parks. We talked about the lack of parks, especially on the south side. You can see that here. Here's the northwest park at Ingram and Nova. But except for Dickerson, which is really more of a recreation building, not so much a park around it, there's really a lack of recreational facilities south of ISB. We also think there's an opportunity, this green strip, we're calling the Lincoln Street Greenway. That's the western edge of the BCU campus. Last time you drove down it, but it's this huge right-of-way. It has very little traffic. It's got the right-of-way the size of an interstate highway with a very small traffic count going through. That's already public. Whatever we did, we didn't want to take, public. We didn't want to take private land and turn it to public. We want to do the other way around. We want to increase the tax base. But you have a situation there where you could put a greenway, enhanced landscape on the western edge of campus, and maybe use that for future stormwater infrastructure, and help the neighborhood in terms of future flooding, and do it without having to buy additional private property to achieve that, and also enhance and beautify the western edge of BCU's campus. On-street parking is critical, especially where we show those red lines. In order to really densify the mixed-use areas over time, one of the things that a developer always wants and our clients always want is, well, if we have a lot of parking provided, we don't have to do it on our property, that's going to help us. And so that on-street parking in the existing right-of-ways that are shown there added up to almost 900 parking places. That was just on parallel parking on one side of the street. It could be almost twice that much if you had it on two sides of the street, in some cases where the right-of-way would allow. And then to preserve, again, the Black Heritage Trail, the public spaces and monuments. There's a plan that's been mapped out by the Redevelopment Department. There's brochures on it. So this is really something that's already started in beginning to celebrate and market the historic assets in the community. The churches, the historic schools, again, the early wood frame vernacular structures that are part of Florida's heritage. The plan would also include that work already done, and over time that might become a special signage or sidewalk, themed sidewalk patterns to connect all of those dots you see, those red dots that are historic assets in the community. Back to that. Another thing we did, there's certain areas that we call redevelopment focus areas. One obviously would be at the intersection of ISB and Martin Luther King as the town center, and what that might look like. This is really the long range plan, but just to give you a little bit of orientation, that's the auditorium, a really nice building there at BCU's campus. This is where the U-Haul dealer is. Over time, that we'd like to see that become a college-oriented mixed-use building, that if BCU does not actually purchase the property and it's not part of their campus, facilities are developed that complement the campus with student housing and student-oriented retail. It'd be nice, obviously, to have over time more neighborhood services, more retail, hotels. A hotel use would be a wonderful thing to have in this area. And then, and you can look at this in your books more at your leisure, but we just did a series of renderings that showed, once over time the public sector has made certain investments and the streets have been enhanced, and the private sector has developed some of these properties, what that might look like in the future. In this particular scenario, it's more of like if you took the guidelines and development standards we developed and you built them out to the how much you would allow, this would be the full build out. Like this might be either a supermarket or multi-screen theaters with smaller retail wrapping it, a hotel, plaza in front, and then mixed-use buildings and housing with parking in the rear. This is Martin Luther King, this is ISB, college-oriented housing here, really, again, densifying that center and making that kind of the crossroads of the community, and that's just, you know, what those might look like. Really kind of celebrating the coastal Florida architecture with, you know, broad overhangs, you know, deep awnings and arcades, shelter from the sun and the rain that you find here in Daytona. You can be more ambitious with a public park and courtyard at the center of that intersection over time. Then this is just a smaller park at Orange. It's already there. It's Huger Park at Orange and MSB. And again, just a series of redevelopments. We just wanted to make sure things would actually fit on the property that's there right now. And so we actually did these designs to test it, to test what would fit. So we ended up with these development districts within Midtown. There's the four neighborhoods kind of shown, centers with the red. And then just a typical scenario would, like the area along ISB in the town center, that's all of the data, all the words would generate, you know, buildings and development would look, you know, more or less like those two images that you see. And then we went more specific about, you know, certain guidelines in terms of percentage of balconies, percent of transparency on the ground floor, building massing, and then this is all codified in detail, obviously subject to the land development regulations consistency with the new regulations being developed by Clarion and the comprehensive plan and everything and the input that you have subject to those approvals. So this just continues on all the different districts, but what I wanted to leave you with was every situation, every city, neighborhood is different. We did a similar process in Tallahassee with something called the Gain Street Corridor recently. And the city, through various funding sources, one was a 1-penny sales tax, was approved in better economic times. It's a little politically easier to get those things approved. But the city's invested over $40 million on infrastructure in this area. It was an old industrial area that was somewhat blighted. It wasn't just a minority neighborhood, but there was a diversity of citizens, some minorities, but it had some of the same tax base and unemployment problems that Midtown had, but a little bit different. But in any case, a plan was done. So the public sector financed the plan, just like we're talking about now, then finance, this could be Martin Luther King, say, Boulevard, for example. This main street through the area, they financed all these really wonderful infrastructure improvements. Now the university, in this case FAMU, is really behind the plan. They're supportive of it, and the private sector, both existing businesses and new national retail. This is Utrix, which is a national bookstore retailer. These are existing businesses. They've expanded. The local businesses have expanded their business. They've kind of bought into the new energy in the area. It's going to happen incrementally. It's going to happen over time. But we feel the first step that the public sector can do to facilitate the investment of the private sector is to adopt the plan. Thank you.
Professor Huffman, thank you, Florida A&M, and a very comprehensive, well-thought-out plan with a lot of input, evidently from the community at large. It's a wonderful historic community that is in need of refurbished land, a good way to start to achieve that. You have some short-term, low-hanging fruit opportunities and some longer-term visionary types of things that I'm sure will be well served by this type of plan. So before I open it up, I just want to say congratulations, thanks Florida A&M for being involved in this, the students that were involved in it. Please carry back our congratulations for a wonderful plan.
I sure will. Thank you.
Thoughts or comments from the commission?
I have a couple of comments. I really want to commend you and your students for what you did. I participated in quite a few of the meetings, and I've read through the plan. I think it's an excellent plan. I love the form-based codes. I love the talking about the pattern books. When you talk with developers, they're looking for those sort of things. It encourages investment in a community when there's a plan such as this. And I'm very excited about it. I think it is something crucial to the development of Midtown, and I look forward to the rest of the process.
Thank you.
It's great. It's really a quality plan, and it's as good as some that, or better, that we've paid a lot more money on. So I want to commend y'all for that. I really was impressed with the quality and the depth of what you did with this.
I appreciate that. If I could just quickly respond to that, that really goes to the heart of our mission at Florida A&M School of Architecture and Planning, where we do have, not just myself, but a number of pretty qualified professionals who have companies and firms outside the academic institution. But then we get, the best and the brightest, our top graduate students, some pretty sharp young people. And to have that opportunity where it's kind of a win-win, where communities, this and others in Florida, maybe can get something in a little more economic model, but get the benefit of professional leadership with a lot of hard work of students who, they're getting paid academically. So it's just a good approach that has a lot of benefits, and we appreciate the opportunity. Daytona, you guys, other communities have done this, but you've been one of the leaders and really stepping forward with that approach, and we appreciate that.
Sure. Please.
I love it. And I think that we have a start already in the city with the new community center there in Midtown, and I think that could be a hub to build off of. That design is modern, it's eye-appealing, and then with all the redevelopment of the housing areas that we've already started in the city, I see this as everything integrating together. So I love the plan, and I'm pushing it. I want Midtown to go for it. Like it.
Yeah, and kind of to echo what everyone else has been saying, it's a great plan, and this is one of those things where we didn't get done quite as quick as we wanted, but taking the amount of time to get it done right was important. I don't see anything in here that really I couldn't embrace immediately. Actually, through the TPO, we're doing that corridor study of US 1. The things you were talking about with the uses, the densities and whatnot, are exactly they couple up with this plan as well very nicely. So I think that we can actually maybe learn some things along that we can maybe extend a little further off of US 1, into the Midtown area more. But, the board, Mr. Ivey, I believe you even went up to Tallahassee a time or two, and they certainly wouldn't have been as successful, and certainly Florida A&M deserves a lot of credit, but the board as well, I think, deserves a big pat on the back, because they really stuck to this for a long time, and made sure that we got something that was going to was the right plan for the community.
Yeah. So the board was involved in every step of the way, just intimately.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I know you don't have anything to say.
I'll try not to take up the rest of the evening. Oh, but I'm just ecstatic. I really am. I really love this plan. I just can hardly express myself. And I just have to reiterate some of the things that have already been said, that it took a group effort with the board and the leadership of the board. And thank you, Johnny, and thank you, Ivy. And thank you, entire board, and the community. I mean, this was a project that came together where we all worked together. And I'm so proud of that. And it's the presentation of it, the way it looks, the easy read of it is so much appreciated. And thank you, Dr. Huffman. You've done a fantastic job. Everybody has. I'd just like to know, maybe if we could get a consensus, Mayor. Looking back when we were audited, with the CRA was audited, and I guess this sort of goes to Reed. Looking at the other plans, the Main Street and the South Atlantic, I see where it was placed in there the capital projects, programs, and activities. And the way it's reading, I'm thinking it was after we were audited, I don't know. But to see if that will also be included in our plan. For those of you who don't have privy to it right now, it sort of goes more into detail about things that we want to do so that if we are or when we are audited again, we will meet that criteria within the plan. It says such things as such public improvements and public utilities may include but are not limited to streets, street lights, sanitary, and so forth. To say that, this will allow us to legally have these things paid for from the CRA if and when we get the funds for it, even if it is 40 years down the road, and also programs and activities part of it. Innovative community policing, so therefore I guess we could pay for a policeman. If we need that. Enhanced code enforcement, we could pay for a code enforcement officer, maintenance program, promotional programs that sponsor marketing for festivals, cultural activities, sporting events, etc. Incentive programs, including grants, some of which we're already doing. But then when we're audited, we can go back and point to, okay, this was in the plan. We won't get gigged on that again, I hope. But I would also like to propose another aspect of it. And you mentioned, and I want to give you kudos again, Dr. Huffman, in listening and putting in the plan things that the community said. But one of the things I really would like to have included as a program is the under that capital projects, the town and gown activities and programs aimed at cultivating a better relationship and creating joint projects with BCU. I mean, you can play with the verbiage, but so that when we try to work more in depth with them and foster a better relationship and do joint projects, we will be doing that legally as well when we disperse funds to such activities. But I am so pleased and ecstatic about what we have here and what has been done. It's just beautiful. Yes, it is a beautiful plan. Thank you, everybody.
Reed, thank you. And again, Kelly, I didn't...
A question, the kind of the process and the timeline for, as we move this forward, do we...
I was going to make a motion, if you'd like me to.
But we'll go through kind of the same process where after we adopt it, we'll go through the comp plan amendments and...
Like the E-zone plan.
Yes. It's in here.
I just want to also mention, in addition to Reed, Reed was wonderful help. I mean, really played a vital role in this project, and Charles Bryant and James Benderson. Those are the three gentlemen I dealt with the most, and my colleagues and the students, and they really did facilitate our job and made things easy for us. So it was really great working with them.
The idea of turning that boulevard, Lincoln, that's on the west side of the campus, into some type of stormwater retention area in the center of that would look very attractive, serve a wonderful purpose, because the traffic has never been heavy on that road. And so we already have the property we wouldn't be looking for. I thought that was an absolute, that's a win-win there. So
appreciate that.
And Catch, I wish I'd have thought of that.
Now,
could you tell people that I did?
It'd have to be stormwater that's rain gardens and bioswales and attractive.
Something looks good.
Yeah, I know. I've fought my stormwater battles of holes with not here, but in Tallahassee, used to be holes in the ground with chain link fences around them. We finally got the community to see that stormwater can be an asset, something beautiful, not just infrastructure only. So.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
I was just going to make a recommendation or a motion that the plan be forwarded to the CRA for consideration and approval process.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Shelley, second by Commissioner Reynolds. With that, I'll ask, is there any questions or comments about that? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. That motion is unanimous, 7-0. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing a little more of you down in here. So, very good. Okay, Jennifer.
Moving on to our administrative items. Item 7A is the purchase of real estate expenditure of redevelopment funds, 719 South Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. A resolution approving the expenditure of tax increment funds from the Midtown Redevelopment Area Trust Fund for the purchase of real property located at 719 Martin Luther King Boulevard in the amount of $50,000 plus $1,500 for closing costs and providing an effective date.
So move.
Okay. I'm going to let Commissioner Reynolds have that one. I've never seen such an enthusiastic board tonight. And flip a coin, and I'll go with Commissioner Henry was the second on that. Anyone to speak to
Yes,
this?
sir, I do have one speaker, Norma Bland.
Good evening, Norma Bland, 1317 Imperial Drive, Daytona Beach, Florida. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chisholm, Commissioners. You know, even though I don't live in Newtown, AKA Midtown anymore, I have a vested interest because I was raised in that community. I was also instrumental by going to the press to make sure that the owners were not going to open up shop in that community because of the calls that I received from residents. They did not want any more convenience stores. I'd like to see that area or that particular 719 revitalized, and I came up with another plan. Allow the community to open and run that business to enhance their community through urban planning. And what we could do, we could integrate that, put that into the master plan. They need fresh fruits and vegetables in that area. There's so many things that they need, and that particular area can provide for the residents. I've had people to tell me they've had to walk all the way down South Street on the other side of Ridgewood just to get certain things that they need for their children because they're not being provided. That's only one idea. And I do realize that $50,000 may be a lot of money to some people, but Midtown deserves $1 million plus. Thank you.
Jim's going to write a check for you. Thank you, Norma. Any other speakers?
No, sir, that's our only.
Looking at this, if you can look at the assessed value and the purchase price, I think we all have to keep in mind that the city owns a nice parcel of land that adjoins this parcel. It's contiguous. And the assemblage of properties make properties more value than trying to look at each one of them. To me, this is a great opportunity for the city and for the neighborhood. Who knows? That could turn into a farmer's market. It could be a number of things. But having those properties contiguous there, as I said, and joined together, I think it flies in the face of what's reasonable as far as the value of those properties. I think together we have a real winner there. And it also answers a concern the community had that this commission backed up by stopping the addition of convenience stores in the Midtown area particularly. So this is, to me, it's a real win-win, this opportunity. So throw it open for any other questions or comments.
No, that's good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Like sign opposed. That motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to our citizen comments, I do have two speakers. Our first speaker is Scott Chesley, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Hello, my name is Scott Chesley with CKS Productions out of Daytona Beach, Florida. I've been in town about 3 years. I'm just here to introduce myself, trying to get familiar with the process and everybody that's involved. We produce festivals, family festivals. I've got a write-up that I'd like to leave with everybody. I'm not sure the process is how I would do that, but just leave it with you. Basically, just gives an outline of what we do. We create large, family-friendly events, large meaning from City Island, all the riverfront parks, Manatee Island, basically from Orange Avenue to Fairview Avenue. Very large-scale events. We presented some events in the past, asked us to scale them down, not close any roads off. We've kind of met all the criteria. So now we're just here to let everybody know who we are, show you what we're doing, and we'll be back in touch in the future. Thank you very much.
John Nicholson is our next speaker, and on deck is Marjorie Johnson.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. We're approaching 30 years of the Main Street CRA. Most of the area has been neglected by the city. The commercial area has been worked on quite heavily, but the residential has not. You spent some money on the roads and sidewalks a little while ago. You almost got it right. You left one street north of Main Street, one street south of Main Street undone, and there are 6 houses not paved or ribbons in front of it, that cement on either side. It would be easy for you to finish the project. It's very little to do, it's very little money. It's less than what you're buying this one piece of property for. It would complete the entire 70 streets in the Main Street CRA. And I think it's after 30 years, we deserve finishing a project. The other thing is, we did half of the parking lot that we own for the Hilton. We landscaped half of it and didn't bother to landscape the other half. I don't like things being half done. It really, the whole thing should have been done. And lastly, the Main Street Board finally got their budget. Midtown gets a budget, downtown gets a budget, Main Street doesn't get a budget. In their budget, we found out that since Main Street has the funds, they transfer the funds for Midtown and for downtown so that they can have staff for themselves. Main Street doesn't get a staff for themselves, and we haven't had one for 5 years. I don't think that Main Street should pay for Midtown staff member and for downtown staff member. I think they deserve their own, and the money should be kept on
John,
Main
I
Street.
can't let that one pass. We do not transfer CRA dollars
Yeah,
from
the
one
appearance
ci-
of.
I don't care about appearance, it's
Right.
the facts that I deal with.
Right.
The facts are, we do not transfer, by law, cannot transfer monies from one redevelopment area to the other, so don't spread that in the community.
All right, Mayor, then where is that extra $140,000 going that goes into the pot?
I don't know, John, maybe that's one of your other things you pull out of the air. I don't know if it's
No,
140 or 30, you know.
Mayor, it's
You're
that-
good, you're real good at coming up here spouting off like this, John, and it's absolutely unnecessary.
The city
You know,
staff
we
refused
almost
to
got
tell Main
something
Street
right
about the
finally.
money.
We almost got something right finally. Thank you,
All
you're
right.
done.
Our final speaker is Marjorie Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor, City
Marjorie,
Commissioners.
how are you?
Have you calmed down yet, Mayor?
Oh, yeah.
I want you to calm down real good now.
I'm always calm.
Relax.
Chill out.
Mayor, City Commissioners. I like to take this opportunity.
Be good, Norma, I'll come back.
I would like to take this time to commend Professor Craig Huffman for the outstanding job that you did on the Midtown Master Plan. I grew up in Midtown also. I was there for many years. I went to school there. I still reside in Midtown. And I'm looking forward to these improvements being made because a lot of them are very long overdue. I've advocated at this podium many times for sidewalks in my community and got some over on some of the streets over there, Magnolia and other places. And we're proud of the progress, and we feel that this plan is the first step. They always say that the journey of 1,000 miles began with the first step. So I'm looking forward to the plan being implemented. And I just have a question. I would like to know how long will it take to get this plan implemented and started? Do we have any timeline on that?
Process.
This plan will have to go through a review process with the CRA boards, the planning board, and then it comes back to city commission. So that process is the beginning, but it's not really the end. It's going to take years, just like all of our plans. You implement the increments that you can financially afford, and in the end, you have a master plan that guides the development in the future and provides the framework for overall improvements in the Midtown area.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else?
That is our final speaker.
Okay, any questions or comments from the CRA board? We are adjourned. Thank you.